Hello and welcome to today's webinar, COVID-19 Accelerating the Pace of Change in Insurance. Well, this is the third time that we've teamed up with Accenture to speak to you all about innovation in insurance. And we're delighted to be here today to focus on innovation, but in the rather exceptional circumstances that we have all had over 2020. As I said, we're delighted to have you all here and thank you for joining us. We know we have people here from all over the world, many different time zones. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. And today I am really pleased to be joined by several people from around the world as well. So first of all, by Jean-François Gasque, who is Managing Director, Insurance Strategy, Europe, Africa, and Latin America. Virginie Babinet, Group CTO from Europ Assistance, Jakob Sajkowski, Head of Commercial Insurance Business at PZU, and Gareth Friedlander, Deputy Chief Executive Officer from Discovery Life. So we will be talking to everybody a little bit later on. And first of all, Jean-François will be sharing with us some insights from the latest Accenture survey to consumers on their perspective on innovation and how insurers have been handling the situation in 2020. And then later on, we'll move over and talk to our panelists, Virginie, Jakob, and Gareth, on their own experiences, what's been happening with their particular companies, their particular geographies, and to share some trends and insights from them. So without any further ado, I'll pass over to you, Jean-François. Welcome, and thank you for being here today.
So thank you very much, Hannah, and welcome everyone to this first Efma-Accenture Connect Forum. It's a pleasure to be presenting to such a wide audience of insurance executives, as well as be joined by such a distinguished group of panelists. I will be sharing insights from various surveys we've been working on at Accenture in the last few months, and as you know, all of us have been impacted by the very special times we're in. Of course, insurance is not the most impacted. Travel and leisure industries, for instance, are much more impacted, but still, we do feel this is a very significant impact to our industries. So if you can flip one slide, maybe. Yeah, so COVID-19 has turned our world upside down. Yeah, I feel we can all feel it personally, but our customers do feel it. It has changed the way how and what we purchase. It has changed where and how we work. It has changed how we interact with people. It has changed how we move around. So in this very special time, we thought that at Accenture would be interesting to better understand how consumer behaviors are affected by this this new situation, really unusual situation. So we launched various surveys. I will mostly draw from a survey we did in June, July this year. So right after the first wave of the pandemic in most countries, 47,000 people surveyed across 28 countries. So major survey focused on financial industry consumers. I will also leverage content from our regular monthly consumer pulse survey that we run cross industry around the world. I think this is particularly important in the context of such wide changes, and many of the findings may be fragile in the sense that they may pass over, but we think that in the context it might very well be the case that most of the trends I will highlight will stand, particularly because they've been so widespread across the world, and they suggest fundamental shifts in the way consumer behave. Certainly a big acceleration, also trends we've been seeing in the industry for quite a while, not only digitization, but arrival of new entrants. So let me go to the first, if you can shift one page. Yeah, so home as a digital fortress. So obviously, as we move to, we adapt to the pandemic, most people retreated to their home. The home became the center of our world, of our consumers' world. Home is where the threat is least and I'm safest. That's a quote we had from some of our consumer surveys, and obviously it became the place of work, the place of schooling, the place of leisure, the place of shopping, and this shows in the figures quite significantly. So I'm just showing two figures, but amongst quite a few, obviously changing the way we work. So 31% across Europe of the people who have been able to work from home say they might actually continue to do so. If you look at learning, almost 0.45% of learning was taught online. It's now about 55% of students actually being taught online, and so certainly impacting future behaviors of our future consumers. Of course, shopping is also quite striking. You have this 169% jump in intent to use digital channels for shopping from low or new online shoppers globally. So really major shift. People were not using digital channel and no other options, not only elderly people, but quite a few elderly people. And at the same time, we see e-commerce jumping from 16% more or less of retail sales in the US to 27%. So major shift. So of course, this has implications for the industry. As home becomes our digital fortress, this is let's say the mantra we took in one of our most recently published paper. I'm happy to share with you later. That presents quite a few opportunities for insurers. Obviously, there is a growing demand for home protection, growing demand for care services. This is especially the case for the older generation and those who are most vulnerable in our families. We've seen that nursing home becoming sort of a prison. So obviously, elderly people much more keen not to go there and much more keen to get support to avoid being there and still be safe. There is also, as you can see on the slide, a growing concern on cyber threat, or maybe you don't see it, yeah. This, I will comment on that later, but 73% of our consumers actually say that they would be keen to get some sort of cyber security services from their insurance company. Certainly a very interesting trend. So if you can flip one side. Great. So no surprise, it's not only shopping for groceries or shopping for clothes or shopping for food, it's also affecting the way consumers interact with the financial industries and consumers. There's been a long-standing trend of slow growth of usage of digital channels in insurance. Suddenly, we see at least a 5-year acceleration, maybe some say a 10-year acceleration. Basically, if I can do it online, there's a high likelihood I will be doing it online. So you see two data points from our survey. First, 60% of European consumers actually say they have been interacting once a month with their company through some sort of digital channel, so maybe mobile, maybe a web portal, whatever. This is I mean, compared to 2 years ago, this is almost 3 times more. So a massive change, a little bit forced, but actually real, which tells a lot about the ability of reinsurance companies to actually provide the services, but also tells a lot about the appetite of insurance consumers to use digital channels. We see a similar trend, not as high an acceleration, but still a similar trend in terms of buying insurance online. About 65% of respondents actually said they would be willing to buy insurance online, mobile or portal, versus about 50% 2 years ago. So still a very sizable jump. And at the same time, you have a sort of reverse feeling of, are my data safe? Is it safe to share data? So 38% of respondents say actually they were a little bit reluctant to share their data with insurers. This is a significant change from 2028, where it was only 25%. So, of course, lots of implications for insurers of these this acceleration in digital usage. Obviously, increase, let's say, need to accelerate the rollout of digital sales and service channels. We do see the consumer appetite growing. We do see new generation, a new never online shopper actually become, online shopper. So there is a high likelihood that the pandemic will not weaken, hopefully the pandemic disappearing will not change that significantly. So very much an importance. Obviously, this is not to say that physical channel will disappear. Actually, 44% of consumers actually say they would be willing, they still want face-to-face interaction. This is slowly decreasing. But more importantly, 60% of consumers actually say they would like a better integration between physical and digital channel. You know, the famous omni-channel experience. This is becoming of paramount importance. And also important, and I think given the importance of data in this in our digital world, very important to find the right incentives of protection to entice customers to actually share data with their insurers. So about 90% of consumers say they would be willing to share data if they got the proper incentive. It might be sharing a little data for a speedier service or sharing data to get a better price. So certainly lots of dimensions already touched upon by insurance companies, but suddenly accelerated, and therefore lots of internal discussions at our clients on how to reprioritize investments into digital forms of digital and multi-channel interaction models. So other major trends, this is not specific to insurance. We also see that in the, let's say, e-commerce shopping world, but it also affects insurance as a let's say, shift to value. So as incomes are reduced, or has healthcare costs increase, as let's say employment become more uncertain, or even unemployment appears, we see consumers becoming much more cost conscious. This applies to non-financial products, but certainly applies to financial products and insurance. And you can see on the slide, you have the 2018 priorities, priority concern, which was speedy and efficient service, fast resolution of key issues, and ability to choose channels as I wish, becoming in 2020 quite different. Value for money being number one, ability to manage my accounts as I wish, but third, competitive pricing, which is more very close to value for money. So certainly a real shift in terms of what are the consumer priorities, which has very serious implications for insurers. Obviously, there is in some geographies a risk of an increased, let's say, price war, at least price competition, which was already there in many geographies. This trend might be exacerbated by the fact that consumers also say that they are more interested than they were by offering from other players, of course, banks. So 53% of consumers actually say they would be interested, or they are interested by offering from banks. That is up from 45% 2 years ago. So that happens real life, because we see insurance taking, bank insurers taking market share in many key European markets. But that's also the case for a thing where it's not so obvious that it's already active. 45% said they would be interested to buy from dealers, so car dealers. So I'm not sure that's really as high a percentage, but potentially a threat of, let's say, OEM ensuring the insurance market as a side business. What's also, showing the importance of, focus on cost structure, cost efficiency, price efficiency. 65% of consumer we polled said they switched for a better value. That is, they switched because they found better value. Might not be only price, because 31% also say they switched because they found a provider that provided a better online service. So certainly a more competitive market. This is not specific to insurance, but certainly even though the industry has not collapsed, it's not, you know, like 70% of the business disappearing as we've seen in the airline industry, but certainly some real concern about pricing strategy and competitive positioning in the years to come. Can we switch to the next slide, please? Yeah. No, go back if you can, hopefully. Yeah, thank you very much. So the other thing which came out quite striking is, of course, the interest for additional, more personalized services. From our consumer pulse survey, 77% of consumers said health situation was one of their top 3 concerns. 74% said the health of their relative was a primary concern. And so it's no surprise that we see a growing interest for products that includes some element of taking care of your healthy situation. So that's what you see on the slide. So continued increased interest in that dimension. I'm sure Gareth and Virginie will comment on that later in the discussion. And surprisingly, we'll see the same growth, even though there aren't so many products, except in very few geographies, mostly Italy, increased interest in terms of motor insurance being tied to premium. So certainly this is not to disappear. The ask or quest for additional service, question is how much people would be willing to pay. There are mixed, let's say, figures, far fewer willing to pay than actually interested by this type of offering, but certainly a key area for differentiation for insurers. In our recent Efma-Accenture Insurance Innovation Award back in June, we had lots of initiatives in the space of offering, you know, COVID-19 dedicated offering or broader health services offering. We expect this domain to remain very important for the years to come, and a key area for differentiation in speed of bringing out those services or combining them efficiently in the years to come. So certainly a major dimension on which to work. Can we switch to the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. Another outcome of our consumer survey is this rather mixed feeling of consumers towards the insurance company's response to the COVID situation. As you can see, really big differences between geographies, with 52%, so majority of North American consumers saying that their insurer actually provided adequate support, whereas it's much lower in Europe, actually surprisingly lower, 33% on average in Europe, with huge, as you can see, huge variations between geographies. We'd be keen to discuss with our panelists on that dimension as well. So certainly there is a question of trust and confidence to work on. Certainly the differences is not only due to the quality of communication. There must be some deeper dimension of that in terms of the depth of response, in terms of the quality of the services, particularly health-related services that were provided. And we know that between the European countries, there are huge differences in terms of how the health systems are structured and the ability for insurers to actually play a role. This is also I'm sure Jakob will comment, is also a question we see being differentiating in the SME market. What's, let's say, sort of reassuring in a way is that at the same time, we don't see retention rates decreasing much. Survey results show that about sort of stability around 85% retention, so 15% churn, which is consistent with the other data points we get, about 13 to 14% of consumers saying they actually intend to switch. So apparently no acceleration of switching, but of course there are big differences between generations. So younger consumers are much more prone to be sensitive to the quality of digital channels, much more price sensitive as well. So this is not completely new, but certainly something to really take notice for insurers, because we know this is becoming very important in younger customers' choices. So in terms of implications for insurers, I think this is a call for action in terms of building trusting relationship, deepening the relationship, particularly at a time where we do see consumers becoming, let's call it skeptical or very pragmatic in their outlook towards their financial service providers, as well as of which insurance companies. So maybe can you switch to the last slide, please? Yeah, thank you very much. So of course, many dimensions we could cover in terms of, let's say, food for thought or call for action for insurers. Just to three, which I think applies to all geographies. Really thinking really deeper into your portfolio of offering and your portfolio of offering to your not only your clients but your employees. Certainly a lot of focus in terms of improved experiences. We saw this quest for seamless interchannel or seamless omni-channel, more personalized experience. So this is increasingly key to maintain brand reputation towards not only customers but as well as employees, and to retain your customers. And the good news is that it's not all bad. There are new avenues for growth that are being identified or called for by customers. Big questions on whether and to what extent they will be willing to pay for that, and certainly something we'll discuss in our panel. But I would hope some gleams of future growth opportunities for insurers coming out of this major crisis. So thank you very much for your attention. I think I hand over to Hannah, and I think we have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah, so Mirka, if you'd like to send out the poll to everybody, please. So we'd like your input, please, all of you out there, and we can see there are a lot of you connected today. So what would you say has been the biggest impact of COVID-19 for your company? So three options there, and please select one. Accelerated the rollout of digital distribution channels, introduced new ways of working, or increased demand for personalized health services. So have a little think just for a few seconds, and please answer and share your inputs. It's good to get insight from all of you as well. We've heard from the consumers, thanks to Jean-Francois. So what do you all think? Mirka, can you show us the results, please? Aha, there we go. So quite clear winner there. It's introduced new ways of working. Jean-Francois, are you surprised?
Putting back my mic. Yes and no. I mean, we all experience it, and we're all actually at this point. I mean, in this conference, we're all operating in a way we did not just a year ago. So obviously, this is close to our personal situation. I'm a little bit surprised about the 14% on accelerated rollout of digital distribution channels, frankly. Because as we saw from the results, but this is certainly a discussion point with our panelists, we do see this being very important. I was discussing with a client just a few days ago who said, well, we've achieved our plan for digital acquisition in July, our annual plan for digital acquisition in July, which is consistent with really consumer shifting, forced in some ways, but still shifting to a much more phygital model. So let's discuss about that. but I would be a little bit contrarian on that one.
Yeah, well, that's a very nice join into our panel. So thank you for that. So thank you very much for participating in the poll, everybody. And now I hope you're all aware, as Jean-François mentioned, that of course Efma and Accenture run the Innovation and Insurance Awards on an annual basis. And I'm honored to say that our panelists today are regular participants, and therefore, adhering to that really our purpose with the awards, which is to share best practices and experiences from across the globe and many different industries. So today I'm delighted to welcome Virginie Babinet, once again, Group CTO from Europ Assistance, Jakob Sajkowski, Head of Commercial Insurance Business, PZU, and Gareth Friedlander, Deputy Chief Executive Officer from Discovery. Thank you all for joining us today and for taking the time out to share. And most importantly, your experiences in this very strange year. So, Jean-François, would you like to go ahead with the first question?
Yeah, thank you very much, Hannah. Maybe a question for you, Gareth and Virginie. Do you see those trends I just highlighted to be relevant to your companies and your experiences? How do you see that? Maybe, I don't know, ladies first, so Virginie.
So just to highlight some points we have already seen. So for the question on the biggest impact issue, that it was smart working, because I think it was when you have in mind the first lockdown, the first topic was to protect your people, after that to protect your customer. Protect your people is how to be able to work from home, and also to protect your customer, because how to be able to answer very quickly to the request of your customer. It was, I think, the first phase of the crisis. After that, in fact, we have to adapt to our customer. On Europ Assistance, we have three main, activities. First, it was travel. So the main topic, I think, after the cancellation topic that we have had at the beginning, is to make more clearer all the general condition. Because the main question for all of us, I am covered or not if I'm sick, if I have the COVID and so on. So it was very important, and a good example where, in fact, general condition was always unclear with small letters and so on. So we have to be able to give some example. And second topic was with our third pillar, which is what we call home and health protection, to be able to develop something linked to that. And it was in particular on the cyber topic, because we have had a lot of requests. Something which was very small before increased suddenly. And the third topic was about senior care, as you mentioned before, because we all know it's a main topic for people, because we have seen what happened in all what we call EHPAD in France, and people prefer to have their family staying at home, and all what is relating with caregiver for senior people is very important in the future.
Thank you very much. Virginie, maybe Gareth, you have a almost worldwide view of what's happening. Do you see those trends relevant to your company and your activities?
Absolutely, Jean-François. I think many of the topics that Virginie has spoken to certainly resonate strongly in our business as well. But I think you mentioned the whole concept of personalized health and how that links into insurance. And we've certainly seen, an expanded role of health and wellness in the context of insurance and how we see it working going forward. As you know, we kind of, use this shared value insurance model, whereby there's this recognition, even pre-COVID, that non-communicable diseases are caused by certain behaviors. So lack of physical activity, smoking, alcohol kind of cause about 60% of mortalities and 80% of morbidities due to non-communicable diseases. Now, what we didn't know is how much it impacted communicable diseases or infectious diseases at the same time. So that's been a fascinating outcome for us as we've followed all the statistics in our various countries around the world. It's well known that about 50% of mortalities occur in people with 3 or more pre-existing conditions or chronic conditions. So, the impact of behavior, health and wellness in the context of COVID is huge. Some of the statistics and the studies that we've seen, certainly in the South African data, shows the importance of physical activity and how that impacts the outcomes of COVID-19. We've seen that if you take, for example, a healthy 45-year-old and a healthy 65-year-old, the healthy 65-year-old obviously has about a 55% higher mortality rate than the healthy 45-year-old. However, if you turn that around and you take the healthy 65-year-old who exercises regularly compared to an otherwise healthy 45-year-old but who does no physical activity, you actually see a 22% lower mortality rate now in the 65-year-old group who are exercising. So one can't change one's age, but you certainly can change your COVID risk with behavior change and physical activity. So we see that being, hugely important in how companies approach, COVID-19 and similar infectious diseases, as well as non-communicable diseases going forward. And then kind of the second, big chapter heading that you can't get past, as you've mentioned strongly, is digitization. And we see that happening, in every single aspect of the business. But I thought one nice example in the UK business is around the ability to provide kind of virtual healthcare through digitizing through digitizing access to clients. So we saw about a 300% increase in our UK business of usage of virtual consultations with healthcare professionals. So that's really encouraging, in that it really kind of eliminates hurdles across the board and allows more and more clients of all geographies, no matter how remote and how affluent, to kind of impact or access healthcare around the world. So a number of impacts, but hugely encouraging, opportunities that we're seeing out there as well.
Thank you very much, Virginie and Gareth. I have another question which I think is relevant to our audience, and that's for you, Jakub and Gareth. Did you introduce new offering or new services during this period to your clients? And I know, Jakub, you're taking care of your commercial business, so interesting to hear what you've been doing in this very, let's say, agitated situation we're seeing, business interruption and the commercial world. So Jakub, maybe your view on that, and then Gareth.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jean-Francois. Actually, a few months before the pandemic started, we launched a project that was called a live band. Live band is a small device that you put in your hand. Looks more or less like a smartwatch, and it measures crucial life parameters like heartbeat and temperature. Now, PZU commercial business basically insures a lot of hospitals and their liability risks, and we wanted to help our clients take a good care of their patients, basically. So in the beginning, before the COVID, we intended to use this live band in the emergency rooms. But when COVID started, we thought that it's a great opportunity to utilize this device. We've intensified the project works and added saturation to the parameters monitored by the live band. And as you all know, saturation is crucial in case of coronavirus. So basically, early in May, so a few weeks after the coronavirus outbreak, we made the first release of this live band in one of the hospitals, and the feedback after the release was really good. So we decided to use the live band on a much larger scale. Currently, we have about 720 live bands working every day in more than 20 hospitals in Poland. So we can say that, well, we estimate that more than 7,000 patients, COVID patients, used it so far. And this is really important for us because the whole idea, the live band reduces the number of contacts between patients and staff, so doctors and nurses. Normally, more physical examinations would be required. And thanks to our live band, the patient is constantly monitored without putting hospital staff at risk. It's really easy to use and a lot cheaper than any specialistic equipment, although it's still certified by our health agency. So we've implemented this live band.
It's a great innovation. I remember showing it as one of the really nice innovation during the Efma Award presentation, because yes, Jakob, this is I haven't seen that in other companies, so very interesting new offering. And I'm sure building deeper relationship with your hospital clients, definitely.
Exactly.
And Gareth, maybe new products. I mean, you're already so much into the health and life being, well-being and healthy behaviors. Did you find opportunities to introduce new products in that space, in that particular time?
We did. You know, as you know, we use clients' healthy behavior to create value for them in their policies. So we've got a benefit which we call a payback benefit, which how it works is if you engage in the Vitality program and demonstrate health and wellness, you start to kind of build up value in the policy that pays out over time. And when COVID hit and the associated lockdowns started coming into play, we, as I'm sure all of our businesses, had a huge cry out for premium relief and funding for clients. Everyone was stopping working, and there was a lack of liquidity all around, and a real need across the board to provide relief to clients. And we actually saw this as an opportunity to use that payback model to actually allow clients to effectively access their future paybacks. So access their future health and wellness benefits today as a kind of loan, and use that to pay their premiums for a number of months and keep full cover in force at a time when they need it most. Typically, what would have happened without that is you would have had to take a break in cover or reduce cover for a period of time. But this actually we saw great utilization of this. About 35 billion rands worth of cover was kept in force by clients accessing their future health and wellness incentives today. And some of those clients sadly passed away, which really shows the use of this benefit, where these clients now had cover, whereas without that type of innovation, they would most likely have lapsed or paused that risk policy. So that was one really good application of kind of the shared value model. And then one other use was we developed a benefit in the critical illness space, which we called the multi-organ benefit. And what we quickly noticed is that COVID-19 was originally thought to be kind of a respiratory disease, but it very quickly became apparent that it was actually a vascular disease and affected multiple body organs at the same time. And how critical illness products tend to work around the world is kind of in a siloed approach, where you assess kind of the impact on the respiratory system or the kidney system, etc. And you need to have a certain level of organ damage before you qualify for a claim payout. But in COVID-19, it was presenting across body systems, and there was actually a gap in how these critical illness products were paying out, because you didn't get that kind of chronic deterioration or failure of a single organ. So we developed this benefit that actually assessed the impact across body systems through a unique scoring mechanism, and it was designed specifically for the impact of COVID-19 and embedded that in our critical illness products that we sell today. So opportunities everywhere, but you had to move at kind of record speed in trying to bring these new innovations to market, because you needed it there before it was too late, and most of your clients weren't covered for this.
So thank you very much, Gareth. And now where I think insurers have been moving at record speed is to adapting to new working conditions and new servicing. So maybe it would be interesting, Virginie and Jakub, to have your view on how did you change the way you provide service. I understand you changed the way your staff was located, obviously. So we're moving to working from home, but how did you change in relation to your clients? And as you have very different, let's say, perspective, interesting to hear both of you. Maybe Virginie, you start, and then Jakub follows.
I think if we have a look positively on the crisis, it was a real accelerator in some area. If I take the telemedicine, I think it was really a topic invented by the assister that was a small part of the medical consultation before the crisis, and now it's something normal for everybody, and it will stay normal after, even for the doctors that were a bit reluctant before. Now it's part of their life, and we will say, so it's why I say it's an accelerator. It will be the same with the example of the senior care. I think it will. I think a lot of my own conviction that a lot of old people will try to stay at home longer than before. So we have in mind that in the future, in the relationship with all this type of population, all the offer to let them stay at home will be key in the market. So it was more for the what I call health business. For the travel business, if you can imagine, it's a big topic, this crisis, because
of course,
a nightmare, and it will change the world. If we have a look on our business trip, it will reduce a lot in the future, because we are all now used to work with this remote capability. It will stay like that, and we will never start to travel again just for one meeting or one day meeting. It will be longer. So for the corporate travel, it will change the facts, and so we have to see how it will evolve. And after that, for the leisure travel, I'm sure that as soon as it will be again possible, a lot of people will travel, but not just go to be on a beach far away. It will be really, because we all prefer not to be able to discover the world, and it will be a different way of traveling, either to stay locally and to rent a home near to you in your country to discover your country, or far away but for a longer travel. So it's where we have to adapt, in fact, our product, and also to be very clear on what is covered, what is not covered. It will be also a big lesson of this crisis. People will be very keen to better understand from the beginning what is in the contract or not. And I'm sure people will be less reluctant to spend a few money to have assistance and cancellation, because we have had a lot of good story for that. And lastly, for our third pillar, which is the most important for at this stage, it's the roadside assistance. I think we can see a very big increase of digitalization. It was the beginning before to digitalize all the customer journey, and we improve it a lot during the crisis, and we will continue to do that, to have something which could be completely automated. You have you call the assistance, and you have just a robot to answer to you, to send to you a towing. So I think globally we have to see that as a positive effect for the company if you manage to survive, which is the first topic, and to be resilient and to manage to survive. It's more an accelerator of the digitalization, on the clarity of all what you offer to your customer, in particular in the insurance world, because it, as you show in terms of figure, we are not always well perceived in the crisis. And people perhaps doesn't understand our job. It's not to reimburse everything. So it's a bit complex, the situation, and we will have in the future to be more transparent for that.
Thank you very much, Virginie. And Jakub, how did you see services being changed or service channel being changed during this crisis? And I know you're serving commercial business, so quite a lot of pressure, I assume.
Yes, thanks. Two perspectives I would like to discuss. First is about people, I mean, our employees. And second is about technology. So first on the people's side, of course, because of COVID, we had to change the way in which we reach our clients and producers, promote our products. Normally, of course, we would meet in person, organize events where we would talk about our offer and, of course, also build relations. Now we have to do it all via the internet. And just to be clear, it's not bad. I'm not complaining, but we've realized that we need to work on our skills a bit. In an online world, during the online meetings, webinars, having a clear and interesting message is the key. You know, the PowerPoint slides that you put in front of the audience, the things that you say are even more crucial in case of online meetings. So really, from our perspective, the message has to be clear and interesting. Slides need to be visually attractive. Of course, you can say that's the same for the sort of in-person meetings, but the bar goes up in case of online meetings. So this is why we work, and we're working on that more intensively with our employees to sort of enhance their presentation skills, to help them create simple and clear presentations, run the online meetings, run the webinars. We have a special training program for that sake. And secondly, from the technological point of view, I have to admit that from this technological perspective, we were, as PZU, pretty well prepared to work remotely with our clients and producers. You know, in commercial business, you do not deal with a client, you do not need to have an instant response, to give an instant offer. So that it's a little bit different. So in terms of our sales process, the impact was not that big. Well before the COVID outbreak, we invested heavily in IT infrastructure, IT systems. So the transition to WebEx or Skype was pretty smooth. So to sum up, of course, after the COVID outbreak, we had to move our business to the online world, which was not an issue from the technological perspective. But we have realized that we need to focus on improving our presentation skills, clarity and attractiveness of the message that we want to sell.
Thank you very much, Jakub. Maybe a last question for you all. We already mentioned quite a few, let's say, potential growth opportunities. I'm interested to maybe dive a little bit more into that. Where do you see, let's say, growth opportunities coming out of this, new life where we're all experiencing? Maybe Gareth, you start, and then Virginie and Jakub on that topic of where's the, additional jewels we can add to our activities and our businesses.
Sure. So I think Virginie actually touched on this point, but it's clear that kind of post-COVID or through this pandemic, the impact of insurance, good or bad, and not having it has been felt very clearly. I think we saw, even post the SARS epidemic, we saw kind of a temporary spike in sales of various products, including life insurance, critical illness products. I think in a COVID world, which has been a much bigger pandemic impacting everybody, the importance of insurance in the pecking order of what the client spends has certainly gone up, and that must be an opportunity. So the increased demand and how you capitalize on that through your models, through enabling yourself through technology, is definitely an opportunity for insurers. But doing that in a responsible way, in a transparent way, in an easy way, in terms of customer journey. So I think that's a clear opportunity. And then I think the second thing that we see as hugely important in the context of the pandemic and how it's kind of changed the world a bit is the societal impact of corporates. I think times have changed, and that change has accelerated dramatically in that society expects companies and corporates to do good for the world, to create real force for social good. And I think companies are going to have to re-engineer their business models to ensure that they align with societal good. And the companies that can create business models that both create opportunities for their business at the same time as doing good for society are the ones that are going to be sustainable in kind of this new post-COVID world. So, I think that's a hugely important considerations for businesses around the world to think about.
Thank you very much, Gareth. I would have mentioned, if I had time, I would have mentioned that dimension as well, coming out of the consumer surveys. And as Accenture, you may have seen, we've changed our mission statement to actually tackle that very seriously from what we can do as a corporate. Virginie, where do you see let's say growth opportunities? You already mentioned quite a few.
I think, as I mentioned before, senior care will be a growth opportunity, and I think also something which is very important and aligned with what just Gareth mentioned. I think we will change our view towards corporate, and perhaps we have really to be resilient in the future. I think this crisis make us aware that everything can change from one day to another, and we will be more selective. I think it will be not growth for growth in the future. It will be really sustainable growth, but also growth that are good for the planet. And we have that in mind for the travel side, because and not to go everywhere, because I think it was also this crisis was an open mind for all of us that our planet is in danger, because we don't know how this COVID arrived to the human. And I think we are all aware now that we have to be more careful. I think it will change the way we see the corporate, and I'm sure, I hope that it will not be only growth, the target objective for all the corporate. So the question is good for the past economy, but less perhaps for the future one, because it will not be the only objective in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, certainly a big push of that coming out of the COVID crisis, because suddenly you realize that other things are more important than you thought. Jakub, what is your view on this, let's say, growth opportunity, or the comments from Gareth and Virginie?
Three things probably that I would like to mention. First is that COVID raised awareness of the risks. Some risks, such as cyber, we see are growing in popularity, and this growth has a tremendous pace nowadays. The reason is straightforward. When the business moved online, cyber risks became more exposed, and there were also several cyber attacks recently in the news. this all resulted in the increased awareness of such risks. So product-wise, this is one of the areas that we see growth opportunities in, and we want to focus on. But cyber is not the only type of risk that is more popular now. We see that other types of risks are also growing in popularity, such as liability risks, directors and officers, for instance. So first area would be the products. Second effect, some industries, some businesses are rapidly developing thanks to COVID, such as healthcare already mentioned, or logistics businesses. And that is something that we need to focus on. Of course, we want to be part of that growth. So we are constantly asking ourselves questions like, what would be the attractive offering for those industries, how to adjust what we do towards their needs, how to differentiate from the competition. So that would be the second area, so industries that are growing rapidly right now. And the third area relates to cost efficiency of processes. We think that, and the study showed that basically people in general got more familiar with the technology. They use it more. They are also more willing to use it, which is very important. And this also, of course, have implications on processes. With the use of technology, we can make our processes more cost efficient. So before COVID, people could have been more reluctant to use, I don't know, self-service apps or to do the claim handling on their own, although they had such a possibility. Right now, when they became more familiar with that, I think this trend is going to grow. So the usage of such tools is going to grow.
Thank you all. Really great insights. Great to have so different geographies and point of view together in this panel. Hannah, handing over for closing words.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Jean-François, Virginie, Jacob, Gareth. It's been a real pleasure to have you here today, and thank you for sharing your experiences, and of course with the best practice as always. So you know, this is just an opportunity for me to kind of how can I put it, preview, launch, I don't know, the 2021 awards as well. So I'm delighted to say that people can already start submitting for next year, sharing your experiences, your best practices and your case studies on how you've been handling this situation, along with many others, of course. And we're delighted to say that we'll be holding the awards in June 2021, online again, so digitalization, as with everybody in every industry, I think, at the moment. And I just also wanted to say one last word, of course, is that if you submit now, you can also win the Innovation of the Month for January, which automatically qualifies you as a nominee. So let's hope that gets you all clicking and submitting early on to be in with a better chance. So once again, thank you so much, Virginie, Jacob, Gareth, and Jean-François. It's been really insightful. And I know that the participants and audience will have plenty of takeaways and food for thought in their own daily lives as well. So thank you all for joining us. The link to the recording will be available soon, so you can all share with your colleagues as well. So thank you very much. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, and hope to see you all again soon. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.